Why do some people refuse to leave towns everyone else has abandoned? I went inside 5 of America's most deserted towns, empty streets, broken homes, and yet, a few still stay. Their reasons are shocking, heartbreaking, and completely real. Today, I'm showing you why leaving isn't an option, and what I saw will stay with you forever. If you love exploring abandoned places and real stories, hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey. 1 Monowai, Nebraska. I reached Monowai after driving for hours through flat land that felt endless. The road was quiet, almost too quiet, and for a moment I wondered if my map was wrong. Then I saw it, a tiny sign, a few old buildings, and a silence so deep it felt heavy. This was Monowai, Nebraska. A town with just one resident. Standing there, I didn't feel fear. I felt something closer to sadness mixed with respect. I met Elsie Eiler at the small bar she runs. She looked at me like she had seen many people come and go, but none who truly stayed. Her voice was calm, steady, and full of memories. She told me she was born here, lived here with her husband, and after he passed away, she never left. Listening to her, I realized this place wasn't abandoned to her. It was home. As I walked outside, the wind moved through empty streets and broken buildings. The old school, the closed post office, the unused houses, all of them felt frozen in time. I imagined laughter, footsteps, and busy days that once filled these spaces. Now there was only silence, and somehow, that silence spoke louder than noise ever could. Elsie explained why she stays. It wasn't money. It wasn't stubbornness. It was memory. Every wall, every road, every empty building carried part of her life. Leaving would feel like losing herself. That thought hit me hard. I realized how easy it is to judge from far away, but how different it feels when you stand in someone's world. When evening came, the sky turned orange and purple, and the town looked almost beautiful. I felt a strange peace standing there, even though nothing around me was alive in the usual way. Monowai isn't just a nearly abandoned town. It's a place where one person chose to stay so a lifetime of memories wouldn't disappear completely. As I drove away, I kept thinking about Elsie. About how sometimes people don't stay because they have nowhere else to go, but because leaving would hurt more than staying. Monowai stayed with me long after it disappeared in my rearview mirror. 2 Centralia, Pennsylvania. I arrived in Centralia on a gray afternoon, and the first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't strong, but it was there, hiding in the air like something you couldn't escape. The road into town felt wrong, cracked and uneven, with grass growing where houses once stood. It felt less like entering a town and more like stepping into a place people had tried to erase. As I walked further in, I saw empty lots where families once lived. Only a few buildings remained, standing far apart, like they were afraid of each other. The silence here was different from Monowai. This silence felt tense, like the ground itself was holding a secret. Knowing that a coal fire has been burning underground since 1962 made every step feel heavier. I kept thinking about what was happening beneath my feet. I met one of the few residents who still refuses to leave. He spoke quietly, but his words carried weight. He told me the government offered money, new homes, and a chance to start over somewhere safer. But this was his land. His parents lived here. His memories were buried deeper than the fire. Leaving would feel like surrender, not safety. As we talked, steam rose from cracks in the ground nearby. Seeing it in real life made my stomach tighten. I had watched videos about Centralia before, but standing there was different. This wasn't a story anymore. This was real danger mixed with deep loyalty. I could feel the conflict in my own chest, torn between fear and understanding. When the sun began to set, the town looked almost unreal. The empty roads, the warning signs, the quiet homes still standing, it all felt frozen in time. I realized Centralia isn't just abandoned because of fire. It's abandoned because staying here requires courage most people don't have. As I left, I looked back one last time. I understood something I hadn't before. Some people stay not because they ignore danger, but because leaving would mean losing who they are. Centralia burns underground, but above it, a few hearts still refuse to move. 3 Bodie, California. I reached Bodie just as the wind picked up, cutting through my jacket and carrying dust across the empty street. The town appeared suddenly, like it had been waiting for me. Wooden buildings leaned slightly, windows broken, doors half open. It didn't feel abandoned in a careless way. It felt carefully left behind, like someone had paused time and never pressed play again. As I walked deeper into Bodie, the silence wrapped around me. My footsteps echoed louder than they should have. Inside the old houses, plates still sat on tables, bottles rested on shelves, and curtains hung where families once slept. Nothing was touched. Nothing was cleaned. This place is preserved in what they call arrested decay, and seeing it with my own eyes made my chest feel tight. It was like walking through someone else's unfinished life. I later spoke with one of the caretakers who lives nearby. He told me his job is to protect Bodie, not to fix it or modernize it. He stays so history doesn't disappear. He checks buildings, watches for storms, and keeps people from taking even the smallest object. Listening to him, I realized people still live here not for comfort, but for responsibility. Someone has to stay so Bodie doesn't fully die. As the sun began to lower, the town changed. Shadows stretched across the street, and the buildings seemed to breathe. For a moment, I imagined the noise that once filled this place, miners shouting. Saloons crowded, music spilling into the night. Then the wind blew again, and everything fell silent. That silence hit me hard. It felt respectful, not scary. Standing there, I understood why caretakers stay. Bodie is not just wood and dust. It's a reminder of how fast dreams can rise and fall. If everyone left, this story would vanish. Staying here is not about living in the past. It's about protecting it. When I finally walked back to my car, I looked over my shoulder one last time. Bodie didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched over. And somehow, knowing that someone still stays made leaving even harder. For Cerro Gordo, California. I reached Cerro Gordo after a long drive up a rough mountain road, and by the time I stepped out of the car, the air already felt different. Thinner, colder, quieter. The town sat above me like it was watching, old wooden buildings clinging to the mountain as if they refused to fall. There was no welcoming sign, no noise, just the sound of wind pushing through empty space. As I walked between the buildings, the ground crunched under my boots. Rusted tools, broken glass, and collapsed roofs told stories without words. This place once made millions from silver, and now it barely holds onto itself. I could feel the weight of that history with every step. It didn't feel abandoned in a normal way. It felt tired. I met the caretaker later in the day. He lives here alone most of the time, surrounded by decay and silence. He told me he stays to protect Cerro Gordo from disappearing completely. Fires have destroyed parts of the town before, and looters once took whatever they could. Someone had to stay behind to stop that from happening again. Listening to him, I realized staying here is not romantic. It's lonely, hard, and dangerous. As the sun dropped behind the mountains, the temperature fell fast. Shadows stretched across the town, and the buildings seemed to lean closer together. For a moment, the silence felt uncomfortable, almost loud. I caught myself thinking about how easy it would be to leave before dark. That thought made me understand the caretaker even more. Staying here requires strength most people don't talk about. Later that night, the sky filled with stars, brighter than I had ever seen. Standing there, I felt small, but also strangely calm. Cerro Gordo felt alive in a quiet way. Not through people, but through memory. Every creaking wall and empty doorway carried the past. When I finally turned to leave, I felt a pull I didn't expect. Some places don't beg you to stay. They simply stay with you. Cerro Gordo is one of those places, kept alive by the few who refuse to let it be forgotten. 5 Rhyolite, Nevada. I arrived at Rhyolite just after sunrise, when the desert was still cool and quiet. The town appeared slowly, ruins rising out of the sand like broken memories. There were no doors to open, no people to greet me, just empty structures standing against the sky. It felt exposed, like nothing here was hiding anymore. As I walked through what used to be the main street, I could see why people once believed this place would last forever. The bank walls still stood strong, the outlines of homes were still clear, and the train station ruins hinted at a busy past. But now, the only sound was the wind brushing against stone. That silence felt honest. Rhyolite isn't pretending to be alive. I stopped near the old bottle house, made from thousands of glass bottles pressed into cement. Standing close, I could see fingerprints in the mortar, proof that real hands built this place. That detail hit me harder than I expected. This wasn't just a ghost town. It was effort, hope, and hard work, all left behind. Nearby, modern art installations stood in the open desert. At first, they felt out of place. Then I realized why they were there. Artists and caretakers still come here, not to live full-time, but to watch over the land and keep people connected to it. Rhyolite survives because someone still cares enough to return, even if they don't stay overnight. The sun climbed higher, and the heat followed. Standing there, I felt small and temporary. The town had outlived its people, and one day it would outlive me too. That thought stayed with me as I explored further, imagining the noise of miners, the dreams of quick wealth, and the sudden collapse when the money ran out. Before leaving, I turned back one last time. Rhyolite didn't feel empty anymore. It felt complete in its own broken way. People don't stay here to survive. They stay nearby to remember, to protect, and to make sure the story doesn't fade into the desert. As I drove away, the ruins slowly disappeared behind me. But the feeling didn't. Rhyolite reminds you that even abandoned places still matter, as long as someone is willing to come back and listen.